Economic analyst Paul Alaje joins us now to examine likely economic prospects under the incoming Tinubu administration and how to reduce high unemployment rate among young Nigerians. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. Now, from Monday, May the 29th, President-elect Bola Tinubu will begin spearheading an economy that is grappling with, high inflation, chronic unemployment, extreme poverty, insecurity. I'd like you to give us your outlook, on how well, and should I say how fast, the incoming administration can quickly turn around the economy, especially leveraging on ICT.
Well, there are a lot of opportunities within the sector, within the telco sector. As we speak, the sector is growing at above 5% on the average. When we average what the sector have done in the last 5 years, the sector continues to grow in leap and bound. But what government should do is to support operators within the sector to further expand their operation. And when we talk of ICT, we are talking even beyond data to telco, infraco, and different operators within the sector. So what comes to mind regarding what the president-elect could do is to harmonize payments charges of government and other taxes that is currently being paid by the operators, and government to also give some level of to pass laws regarding how the sector should be shaped and what should be adoptable by states, by local government, and by federal government. Because as I speak, the industry rules and laws are still not very clear as to what is to be done. What I can tell you is that in 2020, President Buhari promised to help Nigeria with, I think, over 7 billion or 700 billion. But you see, this is where I'm bringing my analogy from. Two individuals who were behind one of the major payment platform online, at that time, I think they sold the organization, and what they realized from these sales is far more than what President was promising the entire Nigerian youth. So I'm not saying President should give Nigerian youth as much, but I'm saying the implication of online communication, online payment, telecommunication, among other factors in Nigeria, is beyond what we can imagine. Therefore, a special attention must be paid to the sector. And also, I would also want the president-elect to consider creating some special support for current operator and those who may want to operate in that sector in the coming period.
Now, the country's debt profile is another huge, task before the incoming administration. They're expected to inherit about 77 trillion naira national debt. Now, how sustainable is this, and what do you think can be done, to ease the growing debt burden?
Well, if the presidency order Senator Bola Tinubu, we adopt the same strategy as we have seen under President Buhari, I can tell you that it will never be sustainable. But if the president-elect, we adopt a different strategy, we become more forward-looking, unlike what we have seen in the incumbent, then that amount will not only be comfortably serviced, but that amount, perhaps significant portion, could be paid. Let's start with this. Over 40% of that debt is from is collected from is under multilateral loan, and I think about 11% or so is from bilateral. These are ones that could be discussed. What we should not consider is to see how we want to readjust some of our commercial loan and commercial bonds. I don't think that would be the way to go. But because almost half or a bit above half of these loans could actually be discussed, it's a window I will want the president-elect to explore. That said, number two, the real challenge we have debt crisis, no doubt about it. But debt crisis originated from somewhere, which is revenue shortfall, revenue issue, or revenue crisis. How do we solve our revenue problems? revenue issues could be solved because there are sectors within the economy that have prospects of delivering revenue to the tables of government up to about 30 trillion naira. The federal government alone could generate, in addition to what is being done, between 8 to 10 trillion. When you look at what we are borrowing this year, and if you had subsidy to 8 or 10 trillion, let's be charitable and say 8 trillion, you are subsidy to it about 6.6 trillion that is projected for a year. You see that in the real sense, we should not have borrowed. The real challenge is energy and technology to generate more revenue. Revenue generation is not what the Ministry of Finance will do, especially under other taxes. It's not what just FRS will do. At best, FRS is doing the best possible to generate from VAT, to generate from company income tax, to generate from CIT, among other ones. But there are other taxes that come as charges, which is the responsibility of the federal and subnational. Unfortunately, sectors that are making this money, it requires right technology to determine how much in revenue they are making. Other than that, what government is left with is a self-report. Whatever the organizations say they do is what government will earn. That is what government will earn from. Therefore, we have the opinion that government should adopt the right technology or the right brain so that they can help government institutions to generate more money between 8 to 10 trillion naira. If you add that to what we are generating currently, you realize that there is no reason for us to borrow in the first instance.
Very interesting. Now, another sector where we've had so many governments pay lip service, to harnessing the potential is the agricultural sector. So I'm wondering what advice you would give to the incoming administration on how to actually harness, the potentials in our agricultural sector to boost, employment, to reduce poverty, significantly and visibly.
Well, what I think government should do is to create agro hubs. Agro hubs you may want to start it with senatorial district, or not to be political, in different local governments. When we create agro hub in over 770, there are a number of things that will happen. First, food inflation will crash. We cannot be using monetary policy to solve food inflation by saying that we are mopping money away from people. We all know that it is not excess money in circulation that is causing food inflation. What is causing food inflation, in fact, is scarcity, as more farmers have now gone to IDP camps. So what the president-elect must do is to look at different states, whether they are in the ruling party or they are in the opposition party, whether their loyalty is to government or their loyalty is somewhere else. Food does not have loyalty. Hunger is the biggest legislator. So here is it. I would like the president-elect to look at from Sokoto to Calabar, from Bayelsa to Lagos to Gombe. How do we first create 10 for each state, 10 food hubs, farm hubs? What do I mean by that? We have core members who we say are serving the country. Not, I think a couple of weeks ago, you saw what trended on Twitter. NYSC at 50. We keep turning out over 250,000 corpers from batch to batch to serve the nation. But in the real sense, where they have gone to, it's Antipat Nursery and Primary School. I don't know where that school is. It's just an example. Meanwhile, we have people who have done, what do we call it now? Teaching practice. They've gone to an institution specifically for that. But instead of these schools to engage some of these teachers, the comfort is with NYSC. I'm of the opinion that we should organize some corpers. It may not be all, because if you want to do census today, we rely on corpers. If you want to do election today, we rely on corpers. We should look for corpers and volunteers. the number of unemployment, percentage of people that are unemployed in Nigeria is over 33%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. If government says that we are going to come up with a program for farm ops, in fact, you can call it Tinubu Farm Up. The name does not matter. The implication is output. How are we going to farm more rice paddy such that the price of rice, local rice, will come down from 37 to 40,000 to like 20 or 25,000? How do we reduce the price of cassava? So we will look for different regions, different area, and go to lab, test their soil. We will know if Plateau is more friendly to sweet potato or Irish potato. We want to know if sugar can grow in Nasarawa. We want to know if rice can go in Zamfara or it can go in Kebbi. We want to know where cassava can grow, where cocoa can grow. This will require support of state governments and local governments. And we are going to share this in about 700 locations. What we are going to have first is you are going to have significant increase in supply of food. When supply increases and demand remains constant, price will crash. It's an automatic thing. So when you have reduction in price, it will have implication on headline inflation. Even if core inflation remains the same, again, you will start seeing people showing interest in terms of manufacturing. What government should then do, because this is a policy issue, when they make the policy, they will ensure they provide military to protect young people, because I'm looking at young people first. Again, if you look at migration that has happened in Nigeria, more people have left urban center to rural area. Average young man don't want to farm. So how do we create that enabling environment for them to farm? And when they farm, it will not be with hoes and cutlass. It will be via technology, right tools. We want to see drone on farms. We want to use technology for irrigation. This is the view, the vision of the founding fathers of our nation. The likes of Obafemi Awolowo, the likes of Ahmadu Bello, the likes of Tafawa Balewa, the likes of Nnamdi Azikiwe, the likes of Ikoku. Those were their vision. And if you have seen in history of Nigeria, not of America, some of these things were done, and that is why the North could compete with the West and the East on groundnut pyramid. The East could compete on palm kernel, and the West can compete on cocoa. What went wrong? We suddenly discover oil, and we believe that there is no need to work. Not mean that free food does not last forever. Now the party is over. How do we start? Those that are coming to government must realize that it is not party to share, it's party to bring. And in bringing, I've told you one out of several possible solutions. Because we can engage a number of unemployed persons via volunteering and paying them. Maybe look at what happened under this regime. The president announced they were going to support youth, and I saw one of the ministers who later even defended it at National Assembly, how government is giving money to some youth. Fantastic program, but they targeted it on a wrong program. Fantastic idea, I beg your pardon, on a wrong program. Imagine those youth have been taken to farms, and government is paying them while they are farming. It will have implication on output. So how do we recalibrate our thinking into production? So that is just on agriculture. And government should realize that when this happens, medical doctors are needed on farm. Economists are needed on farm. Broadcasters are needed on farm. Everybody is needed. Even an engineer is needed on farm. So it's not just going to be in front of your house, start farming. That is not coordinated. From Delta to Niger, can we have hectares, and when I say hundreds of hectares of land, and allow young people who are interested? So when these people finish serving, and those that are volunteer, they will not want to be busy doing nothing, because you have created a community out of nothing for them. Then you are going to see even urbanization of rural area. You are going to see more income going into their pocket, because when they sell, government is expected to give them something apart from the normal what we call alawi in NYSC orientation camp. Beyond that kind of amount of money, you will now have food storage in different parts of the country. So when it comes to food, it will not be that we say we don't have output. Government can decide to release grain into the system. Go to Benue. We see how fruit gets rotten in Benue. So can we put corpus and organize, maybe within 1 year? Create leaders, you know, beyond what just one ministry or parasector of government will do. Engage private sector, partner with the financial sector. Let them invest in it. Then you will see how government will make money from agriculture. The challenge is that over the years, rather than government making money from agriculture, government have been spending on agri and the incentive is low. So a number of things you can do with it. You generate more employment. You can even export and have FX and quite a number of other things for the country.
Well, Mr. Paul Alaje, economist analyst, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday for this very interesting discussion.